Man, I always forget to have the BGM going.
Yeah, Streamlabs needs to be better about like letting you turn it off for certain scenes and try to turn it on for others, because it's actually linked to the scene group, not the scene specifically.
Yeah. Ohai Ootori, everybody. Yeah, he's a tall boy because I'm sitting down. Welcome to Tabletop Tuesdays. Today I am joined by the very tall and very handsome Arbiter of Whim. Please introduce yourself.
What's up, everybody? I'm Arbiter of Whim. I'm a fellow VTuber. I mainly do game streams, doing a lot of Pokemon Nuzlocke right now, and I do stupid anime vids, so check that out if you're interested. But what we're really here for is D&D, and I am super excited. This is going to be my first actual D&D campaign, and indeed my first actual character creation, because I was sort of just handed one previously.
Yeah, and it's looking to be really sick. So let's go into here. Cool, everything works. So the way that all of this works, for those of you who are watching at home, which should be everybody, I have a observer account that's currently hidden by Whim's ring, but basically I am both the GM and a player here for the sake of what we're looking at. So that way, you know, when we actually play the campaign, the things that the GM should only be able to see isn't just revealed to everybody who's watching the stream. So that way all of you get more or less the same experience that the rest of the players do. We are using Roll20. It has a built-in way to have campaigns. So right now we're going through the first module of Horde of the Dragon Queen, or sorry, the first module of Tyranny of Dragons, which is called Horde of the Dragon Queen. Of course, we're not playing the whole campaign right now. We're just going to go through character creation. But before we get into the actual nitty-gritty of the character sheets, let me ask you, do you already have like a concept in mind? Like, you know more or less what you want to play?
Yeah, so the gist of it is that I wanted to go Warforged Artificer. Artificer? Fisher? Whatever.
Artificer?
Artificer. And conceptually, I want to kind of stick with my current design as a VTuber, and so my Warforged body is actually going to be the floating ring behind me.
Right.
Human
and
body is
it's like a homunculus. Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
All right, so the Artificer class. Actually, let me back up a little bit, because I'm gonna want to go through the same process with every player. So of the things about your concept and design, pick like 3 things that you want like the whole gameplay to be centered around.
Okay, so I kind of give this a little bit of thought, because I'm under the impression we're gonna have at least one other what do you call it, cleric?
yeah.
There's gonna be
one
or
a
two other
cleric.
clerics or heal support characters. So I was thinking that maybe I don't go the route of like really support heavy in terms of the subclass or just general playstyle. So I was thinking,
Right.
well, main thing I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to create things like not familiars because I'm not a sorcerer, but constructs, I think.
Well, so
I think
every Artificer gets the ability to create homunculi, as well as, I mean, that's kind of a higher level of ability, but you can do that no matter what your subclass is.
Right, yeah. So there would be that, and then, you know, in terms of the subclass, my understanding is that there's like 3 main ones: the alchemist,
the alchemist, the battlesmith, and the artillerist. Artillerist, yeah.
So I was thinking alchemist at first, but my understanding is that alchemist has a bit more of a support role, whereas for example, artillerist is more like battle mage, like combat mage.
So what's fun about alchemist is
Okay.
the ability that most people use it for is that you can add your intelligence modifier to your healing and damaging abilities. It's just most people just use it for healing. But that means for certain spells like Melf's Acid Arrow, or even Firebolt, you get the ability to add your intelligence modifier twice. So if you have an intelligence of 20, it's a total of plus 10 damage to everything that deals a certain type of damage.
Is that a lot?
Well,
I don't know how the damage.
Right. So, the basic character doesn't have more than 10 HP at level 1. You get this
Okay.
ability at 7th level, so the average HP is looking at close to 70. If Melf's Acid Arrow does an average of 30 plus 10 damage, it's 40 damage. You know, casting it twice would kill the average. Yeah. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But the thing about Artificers is that they have quite a bit more limitation on the amount of spells they can cast per day, as opposed to all the other spellcasters.
Well, aren't you supposed to be able to like imbue items with spells?
Right.
Use
So
items or something.
that's a separate ability. You can do both, and that's kind of why your base spellcasting.
Right?
No. Artificers, as they level up, they get abilities called infusions, which basically the way to think about it. Shut up, Drake. Basically, the way to think about it is that an artificer has you start out with 2, and you have 2 catch-all gadgets, or you can think about them as just a big toolbox, or maybe in your specific case, your ring can generate 2 objects that can more or less be whatever you want. You can only have 2 of them, but every day, every long rest, you can form them into new things. So, like the very first one you might get is a bag of holding. You might describe your ring as having a small teleporter to like a pocket dimension, and it functions as a bag of holding, right? You can also have an infusion be a +1 to somebody's armor. So maybe at the start of the day, you know, you have the ring kind of float up above somebody, and then it like goes down in the Phantasy Star Online style, and it like projects this, you know, whatever onto somebody's armor to give it the +1.
A general buff.
Yeah. And so you can do this to 2 things at level 1, or maybe it is level 2, and then as you level up, you eventually get to 6. And you can just change these at any time. You will always know more infusions than you can activate at a given time. I believe you start off with knowing 4, but you can only have 2. And maybe it is just doubled every time. I don't know. I'd have to check over it. But so you want to focus on like creation and enhancing, or just like raw damage.
I kind of want to. I feel like I almost want to go support DPS. I was thinking more support DPS, as in I could do a bit of damage. You know, in addition to just having out constructs, or constructs to assist with things. I could do a bit of support buffing, and then a bit of actual like focus damage. So I really, you know, obviously I don't want to go like battlesmith or whatever. It would definitely be between alchemist and
artillerist. So the artillerists, their unique thing at 3rd level is they get turrets that they can place. And they don't have to be turrets. Base D&D describes them as either like automatons that have like, you know, small arms. You can either create them to be small size, in which case they have their own movement, and they move at your commands. Yeah, you suddenly got a little quieter. I don't know if maybe you're sitting.
Oh, whoops.
Oh,
yeah, no,
Jesus.
I bumped the. Oh, sorry about that. I
no.
bumped the mixer setting.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it's good. It's good. I just got spooked for a second there. But yeah. So you can either create them. You can either create them as a small size, in which case they can move on their own. So you can like set them and have them walk around a corner. They have their own AC and HP. It's pretty small, but you can fix them decently easily. Or you can create them as tiny size, in which case you basically create a small like, you know, dude that you hold and you press a button and you shoot it. You can make your own guns, more or less.
Right, okay.
However you wanted to flavor that. I mean, I know you said like a bunch of automatons, so if you always use the small sized one and commanded it around, you can have like a smaller homunculus, or you know, maybe your ring
thing where I have the mini me going around.
Yeah, or another way you could do it, you could have the ring be like, again, a transporter to like your home realm or something, and you reach in and just pull out like a mini starship or something, and you use that as the tiny gun, or something similar to that. But if you want a minion manse with all of your other abilities, Artillerist is generally the way to go. But
okay. I wasn't
alchemist,
necessarily thinking like a ton of minions or anything. I was thinking having one minion.
Well, yeah. You only get one. And then
okay.
I think at like 16th level you get a second one. So
Right.
you'll be chilling with one for a long time.
Okay, question.
yeah, what's up?
So with alchemist, I would be crafting items or elixirs or potions or whatnot.
Yeah, so the alchemist thing is once a day, you roll a d6 and you create a random potion. Or it doesn't have to be a potion. I've seen other artificer alchemists have them as syringes that they just stab into people, or you could even have like a dart gun or something.
So I could become a magical drug dealer.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Probably...
as long as it takes the same mechanical action to ingest it, it can be whatever you want. Yeah, I mean, you could craft magic crystal meth if you really wanted. That is a-okay. Well, it's not it's not child friendly, but I mean, D&D wise, it's just fine. Like however you wanted to do it. So
I suppose my main question where I was kind of going with that is, in terms of actual functionality, it almost sort of, my assumption would be that if I have to craft a bunch of potions or well, no, you say I get it for free, I guess, but like if I'm just wondering if there's like a lot of investment in materials or time, like setup that has to be done more so with with alchemists than like artillerists, where I'm under the impression you kind of just shoot things.
Well, yes to both. Artificer is a really interesting class because it rewards how much you want to do with it. So like, for example, the last alchemist I played with, he was he was an isekai Nazi, like actually. And so he would skin a lot of the monsters that we fought, and he would use their skin as magical components to craft things. And because Artificer can craft items normally, and they have their special infusion abilities. But if you don't want to deal with the D&D crafting system, which is admittedly kind of like weird, and sometimes requires some home ruling, which I don't mind.
I've heard it's fairly complex, like it's kind of complicated to.
Yeah, and I have my own rules on how to do that make it a lot more straightforward and slightly more realistic, without having to be like, oh, you can only create 5 gold a day, even though you're like the most genius person this side of the Sword Coast. So I don't mind dealing with crafting, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. You just have the opportunity. And Artificer is one of the few classes that really, really makes a lot of use of that, because other than them, only rogues and bards get so many proficiencies with tools and items that they can even attempt to make these crafts. So in terms of investment, no matter which path you go, even throughout Battlesmith, which I'm kind of surprised you didn't you pass over Battlesmith, because they get an automaton, a medium-sized automaton that they run around. It's like a ranger, except you're not garbage and your familiar is mechanical and scales with you.
Yeah, I didn't want to go. I was under the impression that Battlesmith, like my character itself, not just my automata, would be pretty in the thick of it. And I was thinking
they tend to be more melee focused. They don't have to be.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, the more spellcasty types, the big spellcaster is the artillerist at level 6 or 8. They get the ability to, whenever they shoot a spell of level 1 or higher, they add bonus damage to it, because the idea is that you've enchanted your own equipment so much that it's just like beyond advanced. Or you can flavor it as being, you're so smooth brain that it's like jury rigged in such a way that only you know how to. It's like all of your equipment,
basically like 40k orc.
yeah. Or like, you know, if you crafted like a cart, maybe it's a stick shift. Nobody knows how to drive it, but you do, and it functionally does the same thing as a horse drawn carriage, except it doesn't get tired.
Right.
So that really any kind of artificer can do the same things. Battlesmith is more melee focused, Artillerist is ranged and magic focused, and Alchemist has a lot of utility.
Is more support, I think. Yeah. Support utility.
But I mean, again, how you choose to use that utility is up to you. You can use Alchemist's abilities to make bombs and stuff. You don't have to make potions, right? So it's ultimately up to you. There's a ton of customization that the class allows, probably more so than any other class next to Bard.
Right. Yeah, my understanding was that bards are basically like, you know, songs are basically sort of like spells, but like tons of buff, like a buff toolbox. Whereas Artificer is more of a toolbox.
And what's really cool about Artificer is that the D&D like base manual and Wildmount talks about this a little bit, or sorry, not Wildmount, Eberron. The Artificer doesn't cast spells by using magic. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but the way that base D&D describes it is all of your spells are tools that you just whip out. So like, you might be familiar with the Firebolt cantrip. You know, a sorcerer might spawn a mote of flame in their hands and just yeet it at somebody.
Quick question: What is a I saw that term a lot. I actually don't know what a cantrip is.
So a cantrip is a 0-level spell. It's a spell that's so simple you can cast it for free, and you get an indefinite amount. They tend to be pretty weak, but in 5th edition they scale with your character level. So when you hit 5th level, 11th level, 15th, and I think 19th, they get stronger. But they're basically just really basic spells. Things like light or
fireball.
Yeah, well, not fireball. that's quite different. For some reason, fireball and firebolt are very close together, but they do very different things. But firebolt is like the most basic. You know, it's like an auto attack, right?
Right.
Well, where a spellcaster might weave together like some materials and look through their spell book and then thrust their arms out, an artificer might pull out a single shot pistol, load some gunpowder in it for their components, and then shoot it. All of their spells are described as like items that they use to more or less create the same effects. So
D&D Inspector Gadget then.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And there's a bunch of fun you can have with it. You know,
right.
I travel with a lot of wizards that, you know, use the light spell. They cast it on their sword, and, you know, my artificer just pulls out a fucking candle. Like, come on, guys, it's not that hard, right? Lore-wise, it's not exactly simple. It's simple in comparison to other. Right. So, I guess Drake brings up a pretty good point. The average commoner doesn't know past 1st level spells. So cantrips are actually pretty big deals in like the general term of like the average person. Most people who are spellcasters can use cantrips. They only get about 2 or 3 of them, where the player characters can get up to 5 or 6, because player characters are just obnoxiously broken. But yeah, the idea is that they are spells that are so simple in comparison to leveled spells that you don't really waste any resources by casting them. There are a few home rules on that, depending on how many spellcasters we get in the party, I might invoke. Some might say it makes the game less fun. I think it makes the game more tactical because you can do a lot of cheesy stuff with certain cantrips. So we'll see. But briefly getting back to your concept. So you like the idea of having a singular minion. You want to make stuff. And is there a third thing that you absolutely want to be as part of like the flavor of how you do things, or like, you know, maybe your character actually wears bathrobes all the time, right? What's like a
so I think with my design for the actual character itself, I think I went with sort of the tattered bottom half of a bathrobe.
I see.
Yeah. I don't know. I think in terms of combat, like how I'd handle combat, I think that I would. I kind of want to fill that like support DPS role where I'm not the main paladin or the main tank or whatever.
Right.
But I'm also not just relegated to an almost pure support role like a cleric would be.
I see. Yeah. Well, even saying that, even clerics and paladins, they get a lot of options to just do other things, and that's kind of why I want to ask more specifically. You know, is there a way that you want to, again, flavor something? You know, is there a certain thematic that you really want to capture in everything that you do? Like, for example, no matter, because you don't choose your artificer archetype until 3rd level, you know,
right.
When you use your infusions, how would you describe it happening?
Oh, yeah. I see what you
mean. Right. The thematics, in my opinion, the thematics trump mechanics every time.
Right.
Because I really, you know, inevitably, I know I'm going to have to make custom races and abilities for certain characters in the game, which, again, I have no problem doing. I've run this game so many times that I'm well aware of what does and doesn't break it. So really, don't feel like you're restricted by what D&D wants you to do. I mean, if you said that you want to create everything by, again, treating your ring as a hole to an alternate dimension, that's fine. I can actually find stats for a familiar that works exactly the same way. And
right.
give your
that
ring
is
like...
tempting. My initial thought was that I would create, sort of techie sci-fi looking gadgets. Like,
right.
for example, instead of like a flask for whatever my daily freebie is, it would be like a little sort of mechanical looking thing that I could either activate in my hand or like throw it like a grenade, and it would apply the effect in like a small area if I need to like throw it at like a teammate or something.
Right. Okay.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
So
something a bit more sci-fi than pure like alchemy.
Right. So rather than going for the typical fantasy of having a lot of steampunk or gadget punk, I guess you're just going straight hard sci-fi.
More sci-fi. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all right. So keep that in mind, because as we go through the Charactermancer, we can look through certain abilities and spells that you get, and then kind of, again, tailor them to this thematic a little bit harder.
Okay.
All right. So if you go to your journal, again, here at the top right on the stream, the chat box is blocking it.
Yep, I see it.
Okay. So you're going to see Whim. I'm going to go to the example character. And if you go under character sheet, you're going to see the character sheet, and then you're going to see a question box asking, how do you want to create this character?
Use Charactermancer?
We're going to use a Charactermancer.
Okay.
All right. Welcome to the Charactermancer. Next. Now, for those who don't know, Roll20 allows, or has this thing called the Charactermancer, which basically connects to all of the books that you own online through the Roll20 app, and allows you to essentially drag and drop everything, so you don't have to manually write a bunch of stuff. So for us, the first thing we have is choosing erase, and for some reason, there it is. Oh god, I broke it again. Gosh darn it. I keep screwing up my own. Oh no. Okay, whatever. So you probably want to be a human, I would assume.
I mean, I'm yeah, probably the options I would go with would either be human or something that looks kind of humanish, like an elf. I'm not sure. I would assume races probably have some type of.
So races have a pretty wide variety of abilities that they get. Humans, well, so there's races and sub-races. Humans are actually the strongest race.
Oh wait, hold on. Wait, I'm going Warforged. I forgot.
Oh right. You know what? I'm
right. Yeah,
sorry. So you're
no,
going
I'm
Warforged.
too. I completely forgot what I was.
Right. So you're going Warforged, and as soon as you click on it, which it should be the very last thing.
Constitution +2 is what I see.
And then you get one more option.
I'm under the impression probably intelligence, right?
Intelligence is your big stat.
That's my breath. That is the key stat for artificer.
That is the stat of which you cast on all of your saves. All of it's based on intelligence. Alignment. Now, I can rant a long time about alignments. I will tell you that no matter what you choose, you can basically flavor it to work a different way. But I would ask that you don't play an evil character. Everything else is on the table.
I was thinking what probably applies most to me, but as a person and a character, is probably chaotic good. Chaotic
good. So you're more the type to take action and deal with the consequences later, but generally you do things with good intent.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, so we'll go with chaotic good. Because alignment, contrary to what a lot of people like to say, does matter, not only in D&D, but also for the sake of several abilities. And honestly, I just think that the thematics of doing something for one reason or another can be a lot more interesting. Okay, so why is this not working? Oh, this makes me so sad. I can't scroll on my...
Are you scrolling? Is your mouse on the right place?
Well, yeah. What happens is that the sheet like locks itself.
Because if I use the scroll wheel on the actual like Warforged thing with the picture on it, it scrolls that. But if I have it on the rest of the
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just stupid. Thank you.
You're
So
good.
Warforged gain 1 skill and 1 tool proficiency of their choice. Now remember, Artificers get quite a lot of these. So you can choose to come back to this later. So after you get the ones from your class, background, and other abilities, you can come
That's a
back.
hell of a lot of
There are a lot of options, which is why I was saying, there's only a few classes in D&D that can really make use of crafting, because getting all of these proficiencies is a huge pain in the butt, or otherwise a massive investment. And again, it's okay if you choose one, and then if you get the same one from somewhere else, you can go back and change it, So just feel free to think about you as an individual. When your Warforged construct was made and eventually became sentient, what do you think it might have been used for? Like before you were a character. And that's how we're going to describe our proficiencies here. So for example, if maybe the ring, which later gained sapience, was used to identify things, you might choose Arcana as your beginning proficiency, because that's just what you were programmed for.
What is Arcana?
So Arcana is, if you watch the last stream, Arcana is more or less the skill you would use to kind of understand a magical concept. It's an intelligence-based skill.
Okay, all right. I was thinking insight, but that sounds actually probably more accurate.
Right. Well, insight is more or less your
yeah.
gut feeling about a circumstance or person. And it's a wisdom based.
Okay. Whereas is Arcana more intelligence based?
Arcana is an intelligence skill, as well as history, religion, nature, and I think that's it.
Probably Arcana then. I mean,
Okay.
we can always come back to this, but I think that if
Right,
we just
right,
put something there for now, yeah.
All right, and then our tool proficiencies.
Oh my god, that's a long.
There's a long list, and this
It has
doesn't.
a scroll bar.
Yeah, this doesn't even count all of the custom skills that you could possibly get.
Right. So it looks like a lot of these are like literally sets of tools.
Well, yeah, and in order to utilize them, you have to have proficiency. So, for example, if you wanted to be an alchemist, but you didn't have alchemist supplies, well, you have the knowledge of how to do alchemy, but none of the tools.
Yeah.
So,
Let's see. I'm trying to think. Would alchemist? Because I mean, sci-fi usually probably isn't something that like is.
well,
an
yeah,
obvious
and again, we can
choice kind of thing.
reflavor a lot of these.
Right,
Like,
right.
For calligrapher supplies, you might instead say that you have like a nav map or like MS Paint on your ring.
Right.
Imagine.
Well, it would be paint.net, not base paint. Come on.
My bad.
Come on.
All right.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I would assume that we could probably. I mean, alchemy in general is usually something that kind of pushes the boundaries of conventional scientific knowledge.
Alchemy,
So I would imagine
in the
that-
case of D&D, alchemy
D&D
is
different?
pretty specific about potions and such, or in perhaps your
okay.
case, crystal meth.
Right.
For the vast majority of creating objects, you might want to look at things. So like Tinker's Tools is for like firearms and like devices.
Okay, in that case, yeah, that would probably be Tinker's Tools then.
Okay, so you would want to go
Going
for
with the
Tinker's
sci-fi
Tools.
gadget
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Language proficiencies. You get you start off with common, and then you get one of your choice. There are quite a few to choose from.
Are there ancient civilizations with ruins that have, ancient text on them?
The short answer is yes. The long answer is which one. All right. So we'll go down the list of languages and kind of talk
Okay.
about them. So Abyssal is more or less the language of demons, not devils. Demons.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably baddies. Sounds like bad stuff.
Well, it's a lot of like archaic demonic ritual talk. Abyssal is said to be spoken in polytonal, where one voice speaks like one set of words and then another part of your voice will speak another set of words. It's basically the easiest way to lie, and that's how demons get you. Celestial is pretty straightforward. It's the language of angels and angelic creatures. And it's all very sing-songy in kind of the way it goes. Common is the common tongue.
What happens if I double up on common? Do I just
then,
get like super speech? It's
well,
like speech 100.
Actually, funny story. There are variant rules for dialects. I'm not super picky about them, but you know, for example, if you're at the very southernmost point of the continent, and if you actually doubled up on common, you know, I would probably rule it as, you know, an extra dialect. So you might get bonuses when speaking to people of that dialect, right?
Yeah, like traders in different regions.
Right. So you could do that. It might be a little weird, but you know, you could. So
that seems a bit too specific. Now,
Yeah.
Deep speech.
Deep speech. Well, deep speech is like, imagine
Underwater?
Cthulhu-like monsters under the water.
Okay, yeah.
Draconic, straightforward, but I will note, Draconic is generally the magic language.
Okay,
It is commonly said in D&D mythology that magic comes from dragon's blood, and so a lot of spell incantations are typically flavored with Draconic languages, though you don't actually need to know it. But if you look at it that way, it makes a lot of wizards that don't know Draconic very, very funny, because it's like somebody who watches anime and tries to speak Japanese. It's like the same thing.
Yeah.
You read the spell scroll and you're like, Orewa! And then you cast the spell. Dwarvish, Elvish, and Giant, Gnomish, Goblin, Halfling are all pretty straightforward. However...
Quick question about Dragon's Blood. So, is Dragon's Blood like an obtainable material that you can use for like advanced stuff?
Absolutely. Okay. There are certain spells that require the blood of freshly killed objects. Some of them need to be dragons, others need to be humanoids, etc., etc.
Can I create a gadget that preserves the freshness and quality of materials?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So this is beyond D&D.
Tuck that knowledge away.
Yeah, this is beyond D&D rules. Like I said, I have my own crafting system based on things that make sense to me.
Right.
Basically, if you have a bunch of materials, right, and you're like, Kagerou, I have this shard of ice that never melts. If I put it in a special box, can I make a fridge? I would look at you, roll my eyes, and say, yes, you can make a fridge. And things like that. Now, another thing to mention, creatures of sufficient challenge rating, which is basically like their level, a lot of them have special abilities, and their body parts have a certain value. And there's a bunch of different ways you can go about it. So like if you guys felled a dragon, let's say a teenage dragon, you could decide to just like leave the body as it is, loot whatever hoard it had, and move on. But you in particular, being an artificer, might take the time to individually get its scales. And you can either sell them to people, you can be like, hey, since I have enough scales, can I like make a set of armor out of it? And I'd say, yeah. It would take you this amount of time, we'll treat it as this kind of armor, so it'll be this difficult, yada yada yada. As long as you have the tools and the proficiencies to do so, what you want to do is more or less up to your imagination.
Right. Quick question about timing.
Yep.
So, while I was doing a quick glimpse over just general stuff, so I hopefully didn't sound like a complete idiot. I noticed a lot of things about like, oh well, this thing takes 8 hours or something.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So if you've got a party of 5 characters, 5 players, and you say, okay, I need 8 hours to do this. Does everybody have to just kind of sit around for 8 hours and I guess maybe do some of their own stuff while you're doing this? Like, how does that timing work?
Well, it depends on what the rest of the party wants to do. So if you're in town and you're talking with like an alchemist in town, and you guys agree to high five, and you're gonna create him something, he's gonna help you create something. Then I turn to the rest of the party and be like, all right, is there anything anybody wants to do over this span of time? And then I'll basically have a list of things that they want to do or don't want to do, and I will, for the people that have things that are kind of minor or otherwise don't take a lot of time, I'll tell you to hold off or otherwise make the appropriate rolls, and then I'll move on to that player.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So
So it's not just like flavor text. Like if it says,
yes,
I just take 8 hours. Like we need to fit that in. We need to schedule
take
that.
8 hours. But the vast majority of time, when you guys are traveling and you're making something, if something takes 8 hours, it happens, you know? Because unless the other players really want to do something like roleplay or something, which I'm a-okay with doing, you know, I have no problem showing up to a session and then immediately leaving when you guys just talk to each other for 3 or 4 hours. That's okay. I think those are actually the more fun sessions to be a part of. But yeah, generally when it comes to time, you want to be a little strict about it, because there are rules of things that happen if you get interrupted. And that can be pretty important. You know, if you're concentrating on something and a bunch of wolves start biting at your legs, you can't be like, hey, Kagerou, can I just say that my brain is so huge? No, your leg is getting eaten. So time is somewhat important to keep track of, but it's not so important that it needs to like hold up the session. So like, you know, if it's close to the end of a session and nobody else really wants to do anything, I might just tell you that X and Y happens, even though it takes like 9 or 10 hours. So that way it's not like we start the next session and then you're like, well guys, it'd be cool if I could do thing, but I'm occupied for the next so odd minutes.
Right. Yeah.
So it's more or less whatever the narrative feels like it needs.
Okay.
So
all right, back to languages. Resume the language.
Yeah. So all of the racial languages are basically sensible. However, if you want to talk about ancient languages, elves, dwarves, giants, and gnomes have been around for an extremely long amount of time. It is not uncommon to find ruins of their stuff. But that said, we also have Infernal. Infernal is the language of devils. It is usually spoken very, very quickly, because devils, like fairies, make a lot of contracts. And if they can get you to agree to stuff, whether or not you actually understand what it is you're agreeing to, well, it's better for them. Crawl, I'm not too sure on. I haven't actually encountered a Crawl. It's a Ravnica race. So...
Is that like an expansion or something?
Yeah, it's the Magic the Gathering expansion.
Okay.
Oh yes.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. If you want to,
I understand everything now.
Well, yeah. So like Simics and Simic hybrids are a thing in the game. In fact, Simic hybrids in D&D are like science experiment people. They can like racially grow tentacles and stuff. It's crazy. But anyway. So after Crawl, we have Loxodon.
Tempting, but I think I'll stick with the Warforged.
Okay.
Tempting as that sounds.
So after Crawl, we have Loxodon, the big elephant people.
Yep.
Then we have Minotaurs, straightforward. Orcs are straightforward. Primordial is weird. Primordial is the elemental language. And a lot of people will argue that there are 4 separate languages, each of which are dialects. One for each of the major elements. Aquan, Earthen, Ifriti, and I forgot the air one. I used to know them off the top of my head. But Primordial is the language of elementals. The elemental plane sits not too far away from the mortal plane. And so during your interspatial travels, it's entirely possible that you wound up on one of these planes. Not so much for ancient ruins, but it is similarly spooky things. I will say,
is it possible to communicate with primordial elementals to gain knowledge or advice or assistance in creating my gizmos and gadgets?
Absolutely.
Okay.
However, most
Not
elementals
likely?
you meet are too stupid to be able to answer that question. But genies count as elementals. You see what I'm getting at here?
I mean, I understand what a genie is.
Yeah, genies are elder elementals. So the answer to your question is yes. However, most elementals you meet are just big. They're basically like the stereotypical trolls. They're big and dumb and they hit things.
Right.
So you could do that, and I have no issues giving intelligence to certain elementals throughout the campaign in order for you to do that. But if you were going to go into another campaign and be like, hey, my GM said I could do this.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it sounds like a cool it would be a cool thing to have happen, but it doesn't seem like a thing that would be very common, like lore-wise and thematically.
It can happen in this game. I can make that happen. That's the whole reason I wanted to pull everybody aside one-on-one and sort of get what you want out of your character. So like if you want to be able to communicate with extraplanar creatures in order to further your knowledge and flavor it that way, that's awesome. I'm totally cool for writing that out as a thing that happens. I just wanted to like establish that standard D&D doesn't do that. But for this game in specific, I mean, if that's what you want to do, let's do it. Though I should also point out, Sylvan is a very illegal
druid,
language.
right?
Well, yes.
Illegal?
Yes. It is the language of nature itself. Every animal can speak Sylvan, though most of the average animals can just... it's basically like baby talk. More intelligent animals...
I do like animals.
Yeah, more intelligent animals can speak like proper Sylvan. Like dogs and wolves can like hold a basic conversation.
Does this include? Does this also include like bestial kind of monsters
as
well?
Yeah, absolutely. Anything that counts as a natural beast. So like T-Rexes, whatever. You won't find T-Rexes in this game.
Okay,
but
yes, I would imagine.
Yeah, Sylvan is any natural animal. Now, knowing this language is a big deal. It's actually like it could be the setting of a whole campaign, because the only people that are supposed to know it are druids. So the only way,
right? Yeah, I'll avoid it then. I don't
well,
no.
Hold on. You boys got some ideas.
Oh boy.
You can choose to flavor it as you have just a translator, right? Because your character is like a scientist, right?
More or less.
Right, and since you've come to study stuff like this, and remember, you get a ton of proficiencies as time goes on. Not all of them are language proficiencies, but if you got the spell Comprehend Languages, and then you decided to infuse it into a device and actually make like a Star Trek translator, go for it, you know? Or you can pick up the feat Linguist, which gives you just 5 languages, right? And then you can more or less base yourself off that. Basically, I'm not going to ban Sylvan from you. Just know that if a druid were to hear you speaking it, they're going to be like, hey, where'd you hear that?
Start like a race war.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You're not allowed to know that.
They might get pretty upset. They might ask what circle you're from, and then you'd have to be like, I'm from the circle of...
I'm from the circle of Nigerundayu!
Yeah, I'm from the circle of land. Oh, what land do you go? This one! Just, you start, yeah. So, I mean, there are things that you can do with that. So don't feel like you're restricted from it. It's just bound to create more shenanigans. Undercommon is more or less street slang.
Okay, yes, I figured.
A lot of rogues use it's slated to be, or no, that's Thieves' Cant. Which it's not listed here. I will let you take Thieves' Cant if you really, really wanted to. The amount of times you might use it is to like tell other people that they're a whore to other rogues, and you might laugh at it. Thieves' Cant is basically like a mixture of gestures, grunts, and hand signals to like communicate ideas, which is why rogues use it so often. But yeah, Undercommon is just common slang. Other people choose to say that it's a mix of like low elven, dwarvish, and common, because a lot of drow tend to use Undercommon, and things that live underground. And Velketin is another Magic the Gathering race.
Yeah. The blue guys, right?
Yeah. Blue science boys.
Yep. That was a consideration of I was thinking, oh, it'd be cool to do something like that, but I think it's, you know.
Well, Velketin is a race too.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I was considering that because they do look very much like aliens, but I decided to go with the Warforged because it's a cooler concept. Okay, well.
So what language do you think your creator would have had? Maybe that's a better way to look at it.
I think I would theme my Warforged, you know, sort of self as sort of a research sort of insight seeking you know, machine, like designed to learn things.
Okay.
So I think that it would make thematic sense to teach something interesting like primordial languages, so that you could commune with
I see.
beings that I would imagine people would sort of perceive as perhaps knowing things beyond what people on the normal plane would know, and so that would be sort of a very enticing source of insight.
I see. So like your now, I guess one thing
whether or not that ends up being true is
yeah. I think one
fact.
thing we should establish is, I know you're going for a very sci-fi theme. How would you have arrived on this world? And it doesn't matter how cheesy you want to get here, but if you want to say that you were created,
easy.
Oh, easy.
Created somewhere else in a bad warp jump.
Okay.
Simple enough.
All right. So
it's simple, it's generic, but
so
it does the job.
This is perfect, right? So what it is that you were like a child's learning toy, right? Like,
oh no.
you were a living Build-A-Bear workshop, and then they lost you.
Don't make me into a marketable plushie.
you were a living marketable plushie, but then you got a warp jump happened, and the kid didn't keep their arms and legs inside the vehicle, and you just slammed on the sword coast. All right.
Oof. I can roll with that. That's good.
All right. So sick.
Everybody thinks that I'm some sort of advanced thing, but really it's just like a high-tech alien race Build-A-Bear workshop toy.
Yeah. All right. So your racial abilities are constructive resilience, pretty standard stuff. It's very hard for you to be poisoned. You have resistance to be poison damage.
Mainly because I don't have blood.
Right. You do not need to eat, drink, sleep, or breathe. And you are immune to diseases. Now, notably, you can be poisoned, but you have resistance against its effects. Now, this might seem a little weird because you don't have blood, but standard speaking, Warforged are like constructs of wood and like
metal
sap that kind of counts as blood. So
Yeah.
we would say that whenever you get poisoned, it damages your circuitry,
Yeah, circuits, and there can be fluid mechanics inside.
Sure.
Doing wacky science
You
stuff.
just need some elbow grease.
Yeah, you put a little bit of gunk in the works. That's what poison
Now,
is.
Sentry's Rest is pretty interesting. Whenever you take a long rest, which is 8 hours of rest, you must spend at least 6 hours in an inactive, motionless state. In this state, you are inert, but you are not unconscious. So, here's why this is important. Most people, when they are unconscious, their perception rules or their ability to like understand what's happening around them is like shot. You can succeed on hearing or seeing things or like understanding that something's moving near you when you sleep, but it's very, very hard to do so. You do not have this penalty. However, you basically have a low power state where anybody that looks at you thinks that you're offline. But the reality is your lights are off. You're like a Roomba that's just parked on its battery. Now, even though it says motionless, it's okay if you want to like float in place or something. So that way it's not like, all right, beep boop, it's nap time. You just kind of fall on the ground.
I'll just crush the homunculus in front of me. Yeah.
So
big old
it's
whack on the back of the head.
Yeah, it's okay if the homunculus just kind of like stands there awkward. Actually, that'd be pretty funny.
Well, no, I would imagine that the homunculus would sort of crumple down into like a little curled up position, and then the rain just floats above it.
It would be kind of funny if your like understanding of how normal people sleep was like super skewed. Like you're used to like humans sleeping in pods, so your homunculus like really uncomfortably goes into a fetal position on its back, and you're like, yes, maximum comfort.
This is peak performance.
This is peak performance. All right, so that's that, and then integrated protection is going to work a little differently for you because you are a ring. So normal Warforged have the ability that whenever they put on armor, they can kind of weld it to themselves. Which is cool because armor that can normally be removed from you forcibly just can't be. However, that means that spells like heat metal or things that target metallic surfaces can specifically target you, and it hurts. So we're gonna change it up.
I had a bit of a thought.
Yeah, what's up?
Would it be possible to treat armor equips and things like that as incorporated effects into a base force field?
Yes.
As in, I have a force field, and then it has a certain amount of defense or defensive buffs or effects or whatever that are based on what, it sort of absorbs and integrates.
Yeah, so
the concept of the armor itself
if
into
you see
thing.
the second bullet point, it says to don armor other than a shield, you must incorporate it into your body over the course of 1 hour, during which you must remain in contact with the armor. What we'll say for you is what it is that your ring adds the place and kind of moves around its holographic projectors around itself as it adds the physical armor. And since you're an artificer, if you get armorer's tools, you can even say that you have like these lasers that cut the armor into plates that you fit onto yourself. And then with more physical projection, your ring can like project a higher, like a better force field, since it doesn't have to worry about its physical state. Yeah, that's A-okay. Just as long as you're aware that, again, spells like Lightning Bolt, Shocking Grasp, or Heat Metal will still be able to specifically target you under the same ideas. So as long as we're cool with that, we have your race down. Yeah, sweet. So now we'll go to class. And we're going to choose Artificer. And now a bunch of stuff just pops up.
Oh, there's a short little dude with a blue vial.
Well, yeah,
that's not what I look like. Wait a minute.
That's the generic image of
I
the
know.
Artificer. But
no, I don't want to be a manlet. No.
All right, so right off the bat, you get simple weapon proficiencies. So that's things like daggers, short swords, throwing spears, yada yada yada. Basically, like slightly better than farm equipment. Nothing like long swords or great axes. Armor proficiencies, you get light armor, medium armor, and shields. And for the purposes of your character, your homunculus will need to like physically hold a shield. Because for reasons of action economy, I can't let you have a shield float around you.
Right, yeah.
Because that would mean that you would have handspray. Yeah. So we'll say that your homunculus is just trained to hold a shield and protect a ring.
The homunculus is basically a bodyguard and a means to interact with things.
Right. Yeah. So we're good there.
Yep.
Skill proficiencies. Now you already chose Arcana, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep. So you can choose between 2 of either history, investigation, medicine, nature, perception, and sleight of hand. I will say as kind of a meta
investigation, sleight of hand, probably.
Well, I will say as a meta thing, perception is the most rolled skill in all of D&D. Because as I've mentioned before, perception is your not just passive, but also active ability to just understand things that are happening generally around you. And it's not just sight, but it's also your sense of smell, your hearing, and all of that. Investigation, by contrast, is you consciously picking a specific spot to like really look at. So investigation is probably good for you, but again,
in terms of actual meta,
yeah, perception is the most useful skill in the game.
Yeah.
But if you choose not to go with it, because I'm not going to force you into it, you could instead flavor that maybe you're so focused on your specific research that you kind of ignore the more general things around you. But I do want to give just the understanding that perception is the most rolled skill in D&D. And even though it would be more thematic for you to go for one skill over another, it's at least worth you knowing that perception is an important skill.
It's basically more useful, yeah.
Right.
I'm assuming slave hand is going to be something that's useful for crafting. Probably,
no, actually.
No? Really?
What's fun about 5th edition is that your tool proficiencies are skills in themselves. You can roll on your tool set. And that prevents you to... That means that you don't need to feel like you have to have other skills. Because the idea of having tool proficiencies is... Now... Well, okay, let me finish this sentence before starting another one. The idea is that because you're so knowledgeable in a tool set, you know how to work it in such a way to get the desired result. Now, if you were to run into a tool set that you're not familiar with and then try to use it, if you had sleight of hand, I might have you roll that.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't have proficiency, you'd be rolling with some disadvantages, but you would have the ability to, where other people would just look at it and be like, I don't fucking know. So for the sake of your tools, you don't ever need to worry about skills, because as long as you have the proficiency, I'll have you roll on the tool set.
Okay. So would it be a bad or overkill decision to do perception and investigation?
Not at all.
Would I be better
because
served? Okay.
You're as you stated, you're kind of meant to be more of like, a research thing.
Yeah.
That, or at least that's what you do now, since your function as Build-A-Bear isn't quite as useful.
Basically, yeah.
So yeah, if you want to go investigation and perception, that's a-okay. To start, you get Thieves' Tools and Tinker's Tools, which from your race, you already took Tinker's Tools. So if you want to go back and choose a different tool set.
Yeah, let me hop back and choose a different one then, because I don't want to double up on that. What do we have?
Lots.
If I would... I'm assuming that there are gems and such things like that could serve as sort of valuable and powerful materials for crafting things. Would jeweler's tools be a worthwhile investment?
Yes. This is not a thing in base D&D, but as part of my homemade crafting things. So the way crafting works in general is that you have to create a value of gold in components, if that makes sense. So like, for example, plate armor is like 500 gold. If you wanted to create jewel encrusted plate armor, then you would need metal, leather, chain, and jewelry that equaled 500 gold. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you took a jeweler's kit, what you could do, say you find a diamond that's worth 1,000 gold. The party's looking at it pretty high. Somebody with proficiency in a jeweler's kit, you could say, hey, Kagerou, could I split this up into like, 10, 100 gold gems? Absolutely. You have the knowledge and ability to do that.
Right.
So, but that applies to anything, right? If you took an herbalism kit, you could similarly get plants that are worth a certain gold value. Sorry, a disguise kit, you could have clothes worth a certain value. So,
hold on, land vehicles.
It's the ability to drive. Yep.
Oh, it's not necessarily the ability to make them.
Well,
but if I
it's both.
Okay.
It's the idea. So like treat land vehicles as like a driver's license, right? So like when you're proficient with land vehicles, you not only know how to like move a cart and like what kind of terrain a cart is best used in, but you have a general understanding of how to keep one maintained. And since you're a crafter, it's not a stretch of the imagination to say that like, well, since you've been around so many carts and wagons, or maybe you just came pre-programmed with the knowledge of how to use them.
I grabbed 4 wheels and a couple axles and make them happen.
Yeah. So that's fine too.
Oof, that is tempting. That would be an interesting role of support, a bit of support tech to throw in there, where I could certainly boost our exploration.
And let me tell you, the classic D&D of, oh, my wagon broke down. We're definitely not thieves. I mean, how funny would be you walk up to them, oh yeah, I'll fix your wagon, and then you do, and then they're like, oh, thanks. We'll be on our way now. Like,
right. You know what? I am tempted to stick to like things that's just like, like jeweler's tools or something, work with gems for material stuff. But honestly, I kind of want to go for that land vehicle.
Yeah. All right.
Get that magical Ferrari.
Because you got that. Yeah. You could absolutely make a mechanical engine for a land vehicle. I probably won't let you do it for like, in any short order of time.
Yeah.
But like it could be kind of a character goal you go at throughout the campaign. And there are rules for like mechanical objects. And
I'm gonna make some kind of Halo Forerunner tech looking.
You're gonna make the first ghost. Only for like multiple.
Well, no,
it's gonna be a ghost Corvette.
It would be like a Revenant or something.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah. One of the multi crew vehicles.
Dude, that's gonna be sick.
Oh my god, lobbing those plasma balls. I'll find a way to make it'll be a spell maybe instead of plasma, but I'll find a way to make it work. All right. Back to class.
All right, so back to class. So you get Tinker's Tools and Thieves' Tools for free. Thieves' Tools are not just a bunch of keys. They're mostly just like a bunch of like lock picking wires. Singular shards of metal. You can use Thieves' Tools for more than just opening locks, but that's what they're primarily used for. Basically, anything that involves stealing stuff, you could probably find it with Thieves' Tools. And now, because you're an artificer...
Signatures, not forging items.
Yes. Okay. And now you get yet another set of tools to choose from.
Let's see.
Tension rods, yeah. Glassblower, as well as carpenters and smith's tools, I think would be pretty good for you.
Smith's is metalworking, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, probably Smith's then.
Okay. All right.
Magical I don't think I have anything to go over this stuff yet.
Yeah, so at first level, you learned how to... So basically what this is you can have minor magical effects on things. So you then touch a tiny non-magical object as part of the action and give it one of the magical properties of your choice. So it can either shine bright light in a 5-foot radius or dim light in an additional 5 feet. So again, the candle thing. When tapped by a creature, you can have me use Aura on indefinite repeat.
I play Doomslayer has entered the facility.
Oh yeah, as long as it's 6 seconds long, you can. I actually played an Artificer Warforged that we were trying to break into somebody, and so we were sure that the place was trapped. So I picked up a mundane rock and then recorded using our rogue's actor feat, which allowed him to like perfectly replicate the way that the minion sounds. He's like, boss, want to attack. And so I chunked the rock in there, and as soon as the recorded message played, the dude turned around and like slapped the rock away, and then we used that as a surprise round. So I mean, it's pretty fun. Continuously emits an odor of your choice or a non-verbal sound. If you really wanted to smell feet.
I was gonna say I can enchant a mundane dog with idle feet smell.
With idle feet smell. The chosen property lasts indefinitely.
Oh my god. We can throw that in, just wipe and just gas an entire place with a Hachima feet.
Hachima feet. You can bestow magic on multiple objects, touching one object each time you use this feature. The maximum number of objects you can affect is equal to your intelligence modifier, which is going to be the smaller number, and we'll get there later. Right. If you exceed your maximum, the oldest property immediately ends the new property. So all of this stuff doesn't really have the ability to deal damage or like, you said gas a place. The odor isn't so noxious because it has to be a tiny object. I mean, again, This is the size of like a stone. But
so these are all just sort of basic effects. You can maybe do some interesting stuff with them, but they're not going to be.
If you're clever and creative, you can use this to several things. Actually, the most common application I see of this is by convincing commoners that an item is magical. So they'll give you more money for it. Yeah.
You can probably hear the gears of my head turning right now.
So you can do a lot with this stuff, and that's sort of your whole class in general. The more you can think, like, never be afraid to ask me if, like, hey, can I do like this or this? Because if you can explain a world of logic to me that more or less makes sense, I'm usually not going to turn it away unless it's like so cheesy or like something that doesn't really work out. Or something that I don't think your character or perhaps an NPC would actually fall for.
Right. Okay.
So I mean, if you handed this to a wizard, be like, yeah, it's magical. He'd look at it and then look at you and say, get the fuck out of my story. Like,
kidding me?
Come on, man, you're a wizard. So
it's a figure and it says Ohio.
Oh, come on, it's a limited edition Hatsune Miku.
Yeah, hits the belly and it says Nico Nico knee.
And then it hits you in the knees with the baseball bat. What? It didn't do that for me. And then the rogue comes out and just. All right. So spell casting, right. You have the ability to cast spells, and we can get into that later. And then you get equipment from your class. We'll look into that later. So next is abilities. You have options here. Abilities are your big ability scores. You can either take the standard array, which if you click on that, it'll show you the D&D 5th edition standard array of ability scores. Obviously, the higher the number, the better. Now, whenever you hear the word modifier, every 2 points in a score gives you a higher modifier. So 10 is 0, 12 is 1, 14 is 2, 16 is 3, 18 4, 20 is 5. Does that make sense?
Wait, what about 8?
Well, 8 would be -1. 6 would be -2. Yeah. So your intelligence modifier is what determines the vast majority of your stuff. So you want intelligence to be the highest. But if you don't want to take standard array, I will allow you to roll for your stats. Now, rolling...
Hold on. This has the opportunity to give me potentially really good or really
you
shit
could
stats.
Roll all 6s, which would give you an 18, and because you're a Warforged, you would turn it to a 19, right? I will not give you a set of stats that is below average, or rather, I will let you roll for stats twice. You can choose either result, or you can take average.
All right. You know, it kind of makes sense for my stats to be a little bit discombobulated and get a, just maybe some of them got really good in the warp jump, maybe some of them got really bad.
See, I like having characters that have a wide variety of stats, though average is a good way to just do the thing that you want to do without the game holding you back. And I'm not one of those people that says, oh, well, the first number you roll is strength, the second one is dexterity. So you can assign them in any order you wish.
Okay.
So you're good.
I think I will roll that.
Okay.
Then.
So go ahead and click the roll 46, drop lowest. And we're going to see here in the chat what you rolled, though I might need to move my big fat head. So you already got better than average.
What did I get?
Well, if you look in the chat, it's the same right bar where the journal is. Just hit the chat box.
Oh, wait, hold on. Chat box? Ah, there we go. Roll for stats.
Yeah, so you got 2 13s, an 11, a 17, a 15, and a 14. All of your stats are positive. The lowest one you have is a +0. So let me move my fat head real quick. I really hope my BGM is still playing. Okay, it is. I was about to be like, oh, imagine just talking forever. Face. Where did I go? Oh no.
What was the max that I was able to get in a single roll?
18.
18.
So the 17 is pretty poggers. Like actually,
yeah,
because that means if you made that your intelligence, it would be 18. Which the highest you can get without getting
20,
like
right?
magic items is 20. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good. But like I said, I'll let you roll again.
And then okay, so I can roll again and just pick which one I want then. Which
Right.
group I want.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I hit roll 46, drop lowest.
Drop lowest again. Yep. Oh my god. Okay.
Oh.
You rolled quite a bit above average. Once again, your lowest stat is a +0. And you have a 15, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17. I think you found your go-to. That's kind of nuts.
Yeah, I'll roll with it.
All right. Well, go ahead and assign what you'd like.
All right. So I do
Safely.
How do I do this?
Do what?
Oh, so what do I do? How do I assign these stats?
So you should see on the character sheet, it has like you click on the button that you want. So
okay,
like,
all right, 17 for intelligence.
Right. Now,
see.
Constitution
16.
determines your HP and your ability to concentrate on spells that last longer than one turn.
How important is concentration for an artificer?
Well, that depends on the spell you're casting.
Okay.
Holy shit. Yeah, holy shit is right. Also, hi, Mia. Yeah, you've got some pretty nuts stats for a level 1 character. Okay, so if you're casting a spell like Haste gives an ally, which could be yourself or somebody else, double movement, +2 armor class, so they're harder to hit, and they get an extra attack on their turn. It's good shit. It's one of the best spells ever. But if the spell ends for any reason, they lose their next turn because they're so used to going Sanic speed that, you know, it's like exhaustion. So what can happen is if an enemy sees you cast haste, they might start focusing you, right? And if you break concentration, then not only do you lose the spell, but then the ally that you blessed with this gets kind of screwed next turn. So I would say it's decently important, but there are ways to improve your concentration without needing to dedicate stats to it.
Right. So looking at these stats, I feel like it's probably intelligence is the most important, and then maybe constitution and dex.
So the way I would put this is make your 11 the constitution, because you can see at the top your ability scores so far. Because you're a Warforged, you automatically get +2 constitution. So that 11 becomes a 13. Or you can give it a 12.
I thought, yeah, wouldn't 12 be better because then I get 14 as +2?
Right. So the order of priority I would put it in if you wanted to just maximize the things to do. Intelligence first, then wisdom, then dexterity, then constitution, charisma, strength.
Okay. I think I'm under the impression strength is a bit of a dumb stat for
strength is not super useful for you because not only can you create items to carry things for you, but most of the things that you're going to be carrying are pretty light anyways.
Yeah.
So
okay, so I'm putting 11 in strength, 12 in constitution, which becomes 14.
Yep.
So I still have the 14, 15, and 16.
So
wisdom, I guess.
Dexterity influences how hard you are to hit. However, you are proficient in light and medium armor. Medium armor gives you a set amount of armor class plus your dexterity. Light armor has no cap, but medium armor caps at 2. So you can only benefit from 14 dexterity or higher when wearing medium armor. Does that make sense?
Right. So, wait, hold on. So what you're saying is it would need to be at least 14 dex.
If you wanted to get if you didn't want to waste any of the points, but if you didn't want to wear any armor, then having a high dex is very good.
Let me see. I don't think I want to go. I don't think I want to go commando here.
The basic calculation for armor class is without any armor, it's 10 plus your dexterity modifier. So if you were to put the 16 in dex, that would be an AC of 13, which is not terrible. It's on par with most monsters, but you know, the paladin over there in heavy armor with his 18 AC is gonna laugh at you a little bit.
Right.
Most medium armor will give you 14 plus your dex mod. So if you had at least a +2 in your dexterity, that would be a total of 16. And you're proficient with shields, which always give you +2 AC. So if you're wearing medium armor, you have a 14 or higher in your dex, and you're wearing a shield, you have 18 AC.
Right. So it sounded like you said that wisdom was going to be pretty important.
Wisdom, well, I did mention that perception is a big deal. And perception is a wisdom-based stat.
Okay.
And also, again, just having like a good gut feeling about things. I think wisdom is just generally the more important. And also for the sake of roleplay, since you're a pretty intelligent person, and you at least have good ideas of what you want to do, having a good intelligence and wisdom means that you never really have to ask the question of like, well, if I thought of this, would my character think of this?
Right. Yeah.
Because 18 intelligence is, well, I guess it's closer to say a 20 intelligence would be like the smartest person in the world. Because going above 20 is actual divine stats. Like demigods and stuff would have plus 20. So having an 18 in intelligence, your character is pretty damn smart. Like, damn. They are super book smart. Their capacity to learn and understand things that happen around them, pretty high. But if you have a low wisdom, acting on that intelligence or whatever experience you may or may not have would be somewhat questionable. Right.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah. So I think wisdom probably gets the 16.
The
then.
16. Yep. Now that said, dexterity also influences your initiative, how fast you move in combat. So having a high dexterity, even if it doesn't totally benefit you in the world of armor, which a +2 to your initiative is not bad because you can get feats and abilities that improve your initiative. But for starting out, that would mean you would roll a 1d20 +2. Which again, not terrible, but it's also not the world's best.
Right. Question here.
So,
if I have no intention of taking a leadership role in this party, which, so I don't know if I should, because now what I have left now is I have the 14 and the 15.
Right.
Would it make more sense to take Constitution 12, put that in Charisma, and then give Constitution one of the higher ones?
Well, so Charisma doesn't have to mean that you're the face of the party.
Yeah, maybe it would be that in an interaction with NPCs and stuff like that.
Well, yeah. There's that, but it's also people's general ability to pay attention to you. And there are such things as charisma-based saves to, prevent yourself from getting spooked or what have you. Well, I guess most of that is wisdom, but another thing is that if you're fairly charismatic, you can assist allies in being more charismatic. Right? Because, yeah. So, if you did have a particular face of the party, having them make a big speech on their own might be not too hard for them, but you can more than guarantee their success if someone who looks similarly trustworthy helps them. If that makes sense.
All right. And yeah, that does make sense to me.
Right. So, charisma is a lot more than just being the face. It's just how willing people are to trust you.
Okay. So going back to the dexterity calculations, if I have the 14 and the 15 left, is there any reason to do 15 over 14, or is it not?
Well, as you level up, you can improve these ability scores. So I mean, it would just be a matter of what you want to upgrade.
Dex, 14 charisma?
Say again.
Maybe I go 15 dex, 14 charisma.
Yeah, I think that's plenty fine.
15 the next +1. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do 15 dex and then 14 charisma.
Man, your character's nuts. Imagine your weakest stat still being better than the average person.
Oh, I mean, I am a high tech.
Okay, buddy.
Advanced
All right,
race.
Background. So, there's a lot to choose from here. I will go ahead and break down how backgrounds work. They are not necessarily your set-in-stone character backstory. It's more or less what your character was doing before the adventure started. Basically when you started becoming relevant. Because whenever you
I'm familiar with this sort of stuff from Corruption of Champion. I don't know if I should say that.
So anyway, what I was gonna say is you've taken your first level into a class, which means that your character at some point was a 0th level construct, and you took some kind of means in order to become an artificer. So there's a bunch of ways that you can go about it, and I'm totally okay with having a custom background. Generally speaking, every background will have one feature, which is like a special ability unique to the background. It will give you 2 skills, languages, or tools. Yeah, I know, tools are your favorite. And then usually some money or some minor equipment. So we don't have to go through every single one of these. But if something
is there a background that gives me connections, like social connections that could help with interactions?
There's quite a few. There's criminal for one, and spy.
I was thinking more like.
Well,
I have.
I get that, but I figure I'd name them all just in case. Which your criminal contact doesn't mean that you necessarily are a criminal. You just know people who are.
I know people.
Yeah. Another one is acolyte. Basically, you have a faith, or you are a member or supporter of a faith, and thus that faith will, help you out every so often. There is spy, which is the exact same thing as criminal, just less illegal. You could argue, or knight and noble are kind of the same background, but knight, or if you take knight, you basically have 3 retainers. You got a group of people that kind of follow you around and help you. In your case, instead of being like retainers, maybe they're like researchers. Maybe they're like the guys that found you, and they're like, what the heck is this? And they're like actively pursuing you for knowledge, and you give it to them in exchange for like a favor here and there. And noble is, again, more of a bureaucracy thing. Maybe a city official found you and they're kind of hoarding you. And then you have like a symbiotic relationship there. There is sailor and soldier, which are pretty straightforward. Again, however you want to like think about it. All of those give you contacts into like different things. So I guess what you should do is figure out who do you want to be socially involved with. Like, are you aiming more towards?
So it says that these come with skill proficiencies. Does that? So should I? I don't really get any bonus from having 2 Arcana skill proficiencies, do I?
No, but you can not only change them out for the class, but again, it's okay to create a custom set of backgrounds. So, for example, let's say you really liked the Acolyte background, but you don't like anything else it gives you. You can say, can I take Shelter of the Faithful feature and then put it with a criminal background? So, like, you would get all the proficiencies of criminal, but instead of having a criminal contact, you have Shelter the Faithful. And that's okay. I have no issues doing that. We would just have to figure out how that works in the narrative.
Right.
So, if you're interested... So I guess I'll go back to my question of, what part of society are you most interested in talking with?
Probably like research guilds, engineering guilds, stuff like that. So maybe is that
like merchants or similar creators, or
like craftsmen, researchers, stuff like that.
So what we could do is we could get let's see. Okay, you could take guild artisan. Or at least the feature from it, which is guild membership. And we can change it a little to where instead of you having to pay gold each month, you can choose to pay gold, an item, or you can donate an item that you create, or you can like hold a meeting to like tell them something that's like interesting. Basically, you have to like pay for this membership, and then people will pay you in turn from things that they learn from you. Does that make sense? So like, technically speaking, you'd be like a merchant, except you sell not just equipment, but also information on like how to do things.
How much of a benefit is having a guild membership?
Well, depending on the guild that you choose, which in your case...
Holy shit.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Depending on the guild that you choose, let's say, for example, you choose tinkers, pewters, and casters. People that work and are trying to like make devices. If you go to a big city where a guild like that is bound to exist, they will see you, they will recognize you, and as long as you've paid your dues, whatever you want them to do, you can kind of get them to do. That can be like covering in costs for your party. That can be, free food.
Hooking me up with good materials and stuff.
Oh yeah, and
low
a free
supply,
workshop,
low stock kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah. So you would pick a guild business that specifically likes you, and that's up to you. We can even make like a custom one, So that's what I would think you would do. And then if you want different skill proficiency, just pick 2 other skills that you would like. and then we can go through that.
Right. Hold on. What are the where can I find the skills again?
So it's at the very top.
Class?
The skills that you've gotten so far.
Yeah.
You'd have to just know. So you have gotten thus far Arcana,
Perception, Investigation, and Arcana, right?
Yep.
Where is it? Okay, yeah, there's Arcana, there's Perception and Investigation. Let me go back to class and see the drop down for that. So the other options are History, Medicine, Nature, and Sleight of Hand.
Those are the options from your class.
Oh,
there
more
are
than that.
far more skills than that. Actually, if you go to race, where it says skill proficiency, that's the list of all the skills.
Okay, hold on. Oh, big list. Okay. So I can pick 2.
You can pick 2, or you can chump 1 for an additional language or an additional tool, whatever you'd like.
Do you think skill proficiencies are arguably more useful than
what do you think you're
proficiency?
going to use more? That's what it comes down to.
The problem is I'm not quite sure yet.
Well, but yeah, and I have trouble answering this because if I say skill proficiency, for example, let's say nature, that would mean that for you to make use of that skill, you would need to do things that involve that skill, right? So a skill is only as useful as much as you use it, which is why perception is so important, because everybody perceives.
What is performance?
Performance is your ability to sell a, performance. It doesn't have to be musical.
Oh, like an actual like bard performance kind of thing. Okay.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, but like it's not like, how efficient my inventions are.
It could be. It definitely could be. It's how well can you sell it. So like if you were in the middle of town and you're like, look everybody, I have a freaking rocket booster. Now, every wizard in the world who knows the spell fly will just be like, well, why would I do that instead of just casting the spell? And you would roll performance to be like, well,
what about your concentration?
Yeah, do you want to, maybe you want to cast a different spell. Maybe you don't want to have to use magic at all. Maybe you're in an anti-magic field. And little do you know, your stuff still wouldn't work in an anti-magic field, but they don't know that. So that's performance. It's your ability to kind of portray something. Also, a lot of GMs will say that if you're trying to communicate with somebody and you don't share languages, your ability to portray what it is, like what you're trying to say, is based on performance.
Okay, so I can overcome not having, like, to some degree, I can overcome language barriers with pure performance proficiency.
Right. Just because your ability of, like, moving yourself and manipulating yourself to, like, catch people's eye and attention is that much better than the average person.
Right. Arcana, perception, investigation. What is insight? Insight
is your ability to get like vibes about the situation. It's most commonly used as a lie detector. It's wow, this person keeps like looking to the left whenever they say something. I'm pretty sure they're giving me the slip. Or if you walk into a forest and the only thing you hear is the crunch of your feet hitting leaves or whatever, you might think, man, maybe there's an ambush coming on. I feel like there should be animals.
Like it shouldn't be this quiet.
Yeah. It's just your natural insight and just gut reaction on something. Like I said, it's most commonly used as a lie detector, but you can generally get vibes, and I recently learned you can use it in combat to get weaknesses. So like, if somebody is fighting with like 2 weapons, right? You might say, I want to roll insight to see if maybe there's like a gap in the way that they fight. And if you roll high enough, I might say, yeah, as it turns out, they always strike with their right hand first. And that would give you an advantage on your next attack, or an ally if you choose to give it to them. It's you discerning your surroundings as part of a gut reaction, your ability to notice patterns. People can also use it to just, I commonly use it when in like negotiations with somebody. Even if I don't feel like they're lying to me, I might say, hey GM, can I roll insight to kind of catch their general mood? Like maybe I said something to them and they seem just really pleased about it for some reason. And I don't feel like they should be. Which, even if I don't know that they're lying to me, that at least, the GM's response to that information could tell me there's something going on that I'm not aware of, which then in turn makes me a little more cautious about what's happening.
Right.
So insight is basically perception, but strictly for social circumstances.
Okay.
And it's also a wisdom-based skill.
Yeah, I think I'll probably keep insight then. That sounds useful and interesting. Persuasion. I don't really feel like I need persuasion. I think I'll let somebody else handle the persuading in the party.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, if you are trying to sell things, it might look well. Since you have a decent charisma, you could pull this off. It looks a little weird if you hand a product to somebody else and have them sell it for you. But a way that you could flavor that is you're so beneath all of this stuff that like you just don't even care, right? They can buy it if they want.
I can't be bothered to sell my own product.
Yeah. That would be a way you could get around people looking at you weird, but generally speaking, as an artificer, and especially as somebody who wants to like create things, having persuasion isn't the worst thing ever. And again, if in a situation where somebody else is rolling persuasion, since you are skilled enough to know how to persuade people, you can offer better assistance than somebody who doesn't.
Right. All right, maybe I do just keep these two. I don't want to get too crazy with this because this is a lot of information.
And I don't want to like push you or pigeonhole you into one way or another. I just want to make sure that you have like a clear understanding of how you can use different skills, even if you might not like, even if they're not a core part of your build. So be it, because you can pick up skills later. That's never a problem.
True, and honestly, I feel like the majority of my sort of ground is covered already with the stuff that I've kind of I've already picked out the really important stuff. Okay, yeah. I think I'll go guild artisan, and if the Tinker's guild business is what kind of matches what I'm sort of doing, then that's probably the way to go with that one.
Right.
Insight, persuasion. Yeah, that's fine. We'll go with that.
All right, and then you get to pick up another tool.
Oh boy. Wasn't there another?
So I would say carpenters is probably the way to go, especially because you were talking about land vehicles. So you could like, yeah, since you already have tinkers,
so that'll feed in that'll feed in the land vehicles.
Yep.
All right, yeah, let's go with it.
Because it's just woodworking. And then you get another language.
Right. So hold on. The older language, I want to kind of keep with that theme of sort of ruined languages. And stuff
I
like
would
that.
say the oldest
Dwarvish,
languages.
Elvish.
Yeah, the oldest languages that you're going to find on this plane are probably going to be Dwarvish and Elvish, with a little bit of Gnomish, and you'll definitely see Sylvan everywhere. But if you don't know Sylvan, you can't recognize it.
Right.
So, and Draconic has technically been around forever.
Yeah. Do we have anybody else in the party that's probably going to go elf?
I have no idea.
All right. Well,
I'm
gonna go. That's a common one.
Elvish. Okay.
That's like pretty common. I feel like there's gonna be somebody who's elf, and they'll probably know Elvish. Somebody will know Elvish.
All right.
So I don't know
and
if I
so
want to do that.
You said Tinkers. Now, as for personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, you can create these all yourself. You do not have to take the ones that are given. They are just the suggested ones that go with this background. And if you choose to create custom ones, the only one that really matters to me are the bottom three. The ideal, bond, and flaw. Because the ideal is more or less how you justify what it is you do
Actions
with your background.
Yeah.
Your bond is what drives you to be an adventurer. Like, especially as somebody who can more or less pass off as a merchant right now, what drives you to adventure? And it could be you're looking to create the baddest fucking Ferrari that ever existed. That's a fine enough bond. But it has to be something that motivates you to go forward. Even if the rest of the party leaves you behind, what keeps you going?
Right. Okay, I've changed my mind. I think I'm gonna go Sylvan as my language proficiency. I am really tempted. I wanna talk with animals and shit.
Let's go. Oh man, I really hope
Alright,
there's a druid in the
fuck
party.
what the tree people think.
I
I'm talking to
really hope
squirrels.
there's a druid in the party because they're just gonna be triggered every time. Oh man.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Alright. Let me pick my personality traits. Can you see when I pick things? Does it show up on your end? Can you see
No.
it?
So what it does is that it doesn't actually update. I actually have a separate character sheet called example character, and I'm choosing all the same options as you. So that way the stream can still see it, because if we both try to edit the same sheet at the same time, if I'm on one page and then you move forward, it'll save what I have because I'm the last one to use it.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
So,
all right. First one is obviously I always want to know how things work and what makes people tick. I think that's the obvious one to go with for personality traits.
yep. I actually thought you said, I believe that anything worth doing is worth doing right. I can't help it. I'm a perfectionist since you're a literal robot. Though I like to talk at length about my profession is one of my personal favorites because I can talk at length about the things that I like to do, even if nobody cares.
Well, I have my profession as the 5% anime man. So I might
God.
tempting.
Oh.
You know what? I think I'll let you have that one.
Oh God.
You know what? I kind of like the idea of being essentially like a machine, like a robot who gets really offended when people haven't heard of me. So I think I'm gonna go with the
All right.
like I'm like, how have you? I'm a floating, talking ring. How have you not heard of me?
You know what's funny is that the average person will never believe that. They're always gonna believe that the homunculus is the caster and they just have a fancy device. Because the homunculi are really, really advanced magical bullshit. Like create homunculus is a 7th level spell. Even like the highest tier of wizard don't commonly know how to do that. So like convincing people of that, even if it's the absolute truth, is pretty damn hard. So I think I'm a fucking talk.
A roll.
right, and so it'll be funny because everybody thinks that you're just a big puppet act when you're not.
Right. Let's see.
So your ideal.
Well, I am, but in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
All right, ideal. Oof.
And again, you can skip past all of
probably
these.
aspiration.
Aspiration. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
You bombed. Now these
I
are
owe a great debt.
No,
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. That would be funny, but it wouldn't make sense. So
I created a great
I love the
work for
idea of
somebody
being a
and
robot
found
that's
them
also a debt
unworthy to
slave.
receive it. Wait, I just had a PogChamps moment. Okay, all right. I created a great work for somebody and then found them unworthy to receive it. What if you yourself are the great work? And you thought that attaching yourself to another artisan would be like the best way to get things done, to like learn about the world, but everybody is not only super
everybody else has
primitive,
like
but
they
it's
have
like
0 int.
well, yeah, well they have 10 int, but you have 18. You're too big brain, and so you decided that if nobody can teach you about the world, you'll just fucking do it yourself.
All right, you know what? I love it.
All
It's
right,
great.
all right.
We'll go with that.
All right.
All right, what is my flaw? Let's see. No one must ever learn that I once stole money from killing golfers.
These fucking barbarians, they'll never notice.
Honestly, what kind of makes sense is being jealous that people can outshine my handiwork, like as my character.
Right. Especially because
but honestly, my fucking int and shit is so high that it probably doesn't even happen. So
well, it can happen. Because magic exists. There are spells that are literally called fabricate, where they just create things. And so it would be like if a sorcerer walks up and is like, I'm so good at making things, and he snaps his fingers and a fucking tank shows up. He didn't put any of the work into it, but it is there. And I mean, granted,
you know what? I'd say probably go with that then.
Okay. Another thing
It makes sense.
Another thing to think about regarding that is, you know, you're very sci-fi and you're very smart, but there's still a limit of materials that you can get your hands on. You know, doesn't matter how big brain you are. If you need dinosaur skin, you need dinosaur skin. And so people who have access to stuff like that, either because they have a lot of money or they go out and do it themselves, they can outshine your work simply by just having better materials and so on and so forth.
Right.
All right, we are almost done.
Equipment.
All right, so equipment, we're gonna go ahead and take class equipment,
right.
and you can just choose whatever you like.
I'm thinking ranged. I think I go ranged or so. What is a quarter? It's quarterstaff. Is it like a magic staff, or is that?
Well, a quarterstaff is like a walking stick that you can beat people with.
I see. Oh, it's literally just it's literally just a stick.
It seriously, it's a walking stick that you beat people up with. A lot of people like to flavor quarterstaffs as canes.
Right. I'm thinking light crossbow. How is ammo gonna work? Am I gonna have to keep track of ammo and
Yep.
stuff?
You will have to keep track of ammo.
Okay.
However, I do have a means of collecting ammunition after the battle. Basically, whenever you shoot, like no matter how much you shoot, you can always collect half of the ammunition that you shot. And then I'll have you roll to see how much of the other remaining half that you get. And it rounds up. So if you only shoot one, you can get your bolt back.
All right, I think I'll go that, and then... Oh, this is it. These are all very basic. I don't think I'm...
Well, yeah, but I mean...
I think a hand axe, maybe? Could I use that as a tool, too, and get some wood?
It's not really sharp. Oh, actually, you definitely could. I would probably end up giving you just a big bonus when chopping
like
at things.
Material collection for stuff like that? Yeah, okay. Alright.
Though if you take woodcutter's tools, you have axes like that.
Did I already do that? I don't think I did.
So you have proficiency in woodcutter in carpenter's tools, but having proficiency is knowing how to use them.
Okay, right, yeah.
Right, so an artificer gets thieves' tools, and I think smith's or tinker's tools. But as for your smith's tools, your carpenter's tools, and anything else, you actually have to go buy those.
Okay. All right. Leather versus scale mail.
So leather is light armor, scale mail is medium armor. And actually, here's something fun. I can go ahead and show off this. So you see in the chat box, right next to the journal, there's an eye. It's the compendium. Yep. Go ahead and click on that, and then type in armor. And once it's done searching, search for the.
I typed in medium, but yeah, let's switch to armor then.
Well, yeah, just click on
armor. Okay.
On armor, and then you can scroll down, and you can actually see from the book all of the types of armor that you can get.
Right.
So it's offering you scale mail, which gives you 14 plus your dex modifier. So that means that you would get 16 AC.
What's my dex at again after any modifiers they already have?
Yeah, if you scroll all the way up on your character sheet, your dex is 15, which means that you get a +2.
Okay, so yeah, so yeah, we talked about this. I can go with the scale mill because I don't benefit from scaling past that.
So something to note that it is 45 pounds, and while I'm not huge on like keeping track of specific weight, something that it does do is it says disadvantage on stealth, which means that if this armor is so like noisy that whenever you try and hide while wearing it, you have to roll twice and take the worst result.
Okay, I mean I'm a big boy. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's not a big deal for you, but like if the whole party is trying to stealth, they're gonna look at you like you're a retard.
Fucking they got like Zhongling bells dangling.
Yeah. All right, and then the set of tools. Now these are the physical tools.
Oh my god, more tools.
Well, no, these aren't proficiencies. These are the tools in your inventory. You already have tinkers and thieves' tools.
Right, yeah, because I get this by default.
Yep.
All right. What were the proficiencies I picked again? besides those?
have carpenters, you have land vehicles, which isn't a set of tools, and you also have smiths. So basically, it's your choice between smith or
carpenters and smith. Yeah. I'm assuming that. Let's go smith. I like metal.
Smith. All right.
Yeah.
Sick. Now the last part, and what some people would say the hardest part, spells. However, spells are not that difficult. You get 2 cantrips, 2 of your basic spells, and then you get 5 first level spells, and that's it. So, as a warforged, or not as a warforged, as a artificer, the mending cantrip is pretty important. What it does is that it repairs minor infractions in objects, and if you choose to go artillerist, your turrets can get healed by this spell.
Yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer. All right, yeah, we'll go with that.
Another good one.
What is prestidigitation?
Prestidigitation is minor magic. You know how you have your like minor enchantments? It's like that, but it can do a little bit more. And also, if you select the spell, you'll notice there at the right, it actually brings up the compendium entry of what the spell does. I would recommend getting either message or a damaging cantrip. So
yeah, I mean, I was
Splash,
thinking the second would be damage.
Yeah, acid splash, firebolt, frostbite, technically magic stone, poison spray, ray of frost, sapping sting, or shocking grasp. Oh, also thorn whip and thunderclap.
Thunderclap. That is sound.
Thunderclap is an AoE around you. So if you get surrounded by dudes, you can give them the big slap. The clap of your ass cheeks.
But that can also hit my teammates though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna avoid that one then. I don't want to be that guy who's just fucking going around clapping.
Oh man, did I have a bard who did that? And her thing was the clap of her ass cheeks were too thick. God.
Got Ray of Frost. Ooh, speed debuffs.
Yeah.
I do like giving speed debuffs. I think I go mending Ray of Frost actually.
Ray of Frost is pretty good. However, I should also say Shocking Grasp is pretty good.
Is that electric?
Yes, it's lightning.
Okay.
And it's melee range, but if you successfully hit somebody with it, they can't take reactions. So things like attacks of opportunity. So like, say one of your allies is being flanked by some dudes, you can hit one of them with this. And then your ally can get away, only worrying about having to defend from one enemy instead of 2. Or if there's like a big boss monster and you hit him with this, then all of you can run away and he can't do anything about it. So that's pretty cool, and if later you get the ability to have a familiar, it can deliver the spell for you.
Hold on, is the reactions done, is that guaranteed? I don't have to roll for that?
Yeah, if you hit with Shocking Grasp, on hit the target takes 1d8 lightning damage, and it can't take reactions until the start of its next turn.
So even if it's a big boss, like if I can
as long as you hit. Now, something to mention, D&D 5th edition has special actions for bosses called legendary actions, which are kind of like reactions but are specifically stated differently for the purposes of spells like these. So big epic bosses might not be as affected, but specifically for things like attacks of opportunity, it would work, no matter who it was.
Drake has the right idea. Yeah, I saw that. I'm like, oh, Thunderwave. Perfect.
Thunderwave is pretty good, but not
as in the Pokemon move, not like a D&D thing.
Well,
just clarifying in case there is a Thunderwave in D&D. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I kind of want to go with Shocking Grasp, but speed debuff.
I personally like Acid Splash as my preferred cantrip. The reason is that you don't roll to hit. The enemy rolls to save against it. And especially at low levels, a lot of enemies don't have a lot of saves. Also, Acid Splash can hit a total of 2 targets. but they have to be right next to each other.
Yeah, I just don't like the concept of acid splash thematically with my character.
Well, yeah, but I mean, again, because all of your magic is done through tools, you can flavor it differently.
True.
I mean, you could say that you break a bottle of booze over their head, right? Like, as long as it generally does the same thing.
I honestly, for me, I think it's between Shock and Grasp and Ray of Frost.
Okay.
And frankly, I think just thematically, I like Ray of Frost better because it's not melee.
Another thing to look at is Sapping Sting, which is a...
Yeah, that's a necro thing, right?
Well, it's time magic. It's just assigned to necromancy because it deals necrotic damage. Basically, it's like a minor slow that you put on somebody. Or rather, you sap the vitality of one creature. Yeah. So, within 30 feet, you basically force a creature to fall on its knees. It's a ranged baseball bat. Which, a thing about prone targets, you have advantage to hit them in melee, and they have disadvantage to hit back. So again, if you're against a tough opponent and you want him to just not deal with moving or, Sapping Sting is good for crowd control.
All right.
Though I will say also that
I am
Ray
going
of Frost.
Shock and Grasp.
Okay. I was gonna say
Ray of Frost would be a close second if I
Ray
could
of Frost
get another.
does stack on
cantrip.
itself too.
Wait, it stacks?
Yes.
All right, it's Ray of Frost. You could have just told me that to begin with.
But you only get one action.
Oh my god.
One action per turn. The reason I'm bringing this up is that if somebody else takes Ray of Frost and they hit somebody, you can do the big meme and use your own Ray of Frost.
Okay, the Ray of Frost then. All right.
Okay.
Now it's no question. Yeah.
All right.
Like those combo attacks. All right, cool.
So.
All right.
First level spells. This is where things get hard. And unfortunately, so Thunder Wave is a first level spell. It's not one that you can take. But you do have some options. Absorb elements. As a reaction to getting hit by elemental damage, you can take half damage, and then your next melee attack deals that element in damage as well. Since you're not melee, it's not super useful.
Yeah.
However, taking half damage from things like, a dragon's breath attack, pretty nice.
Yeah, I feel like that scales quite a bit. With enemy
so that's
damage.
good. Alarm is more or less what it says. You spend a bit of time casting spells, so it's not something you do in combat, but you designate an area and a group of people within that area that are allowed to pass through. You basically lay a magical trap. And if, you might say, if somebody that isn't the party enters this zone, wake us all up. So that's what that spell does. Catapult. Catapult is a big favorite of mine. It's force, grab, and push. Pick an object that somebody isn't holding on to that's less than 5 pounds, and you yeet it so hard that it does damage. Now, what's funny about this spell is you can technically target things that are still in flight. So you could prepare an action. Say an archer shoots somebody. The arrow goes flying into the guy, and maybe it goes, or maybe it misses, right? If the arrow misses, you have a prepared action to catapult it back at the same target. So thematically, this archer would shoot an arrow, and then it misses, and then you force grab it and have it turn around and hit the guy. Because it's a save. You don't roll to hit, they roll to dodge. Though the thing about these kinds of spells is while it does a good amount of damage, if they succeed on the save, they take no damage. So, Cure Wounds, pretty self-explanatory. It's touch range, you heal people. By the way, even though you count as a construct, you are technically a living creature, and thus Cure Wounds and Inflict Wounds count on you.
Right, yeah.
Detect Magic, very self-explanatory. You get it doesn't tell you spells in specific, it tells you schools of spells and generally the kind of magic that's being cast. But if you feel like some magic fuckery has happened, you can cast Detect Magic and kind of get an idea of what might have happened.
Right, yeah, I saw Detect Magic, and I feel like thematically that'd be a good one to have.
It's pretty good, especially for somebody like you. Disguise Self.
First one's definitely Detect Magic.
Okay. Disguise Self, very self-explanatory. Expeditious Retreat increases your movement speed. Specifically, when you cast a spell and then as a bonus action on each of your turns for the next 10 minutes, you take what's called the dash action, which is you can move your movement speed again. So let's say you need to get somewhere real fast. You run, you take your movement action to move. You take your main action to move again. You cast this spell as a bonus action, and then you move a third time. So you get to basically triple movement to just haul ass, which your movement is 30 feet. So you would get 90 feet of movement if all you did was move with the spell active. And you can cast, or you can only cast it on yourself. Okay, never mind. Fairy Fire is another favorite of mine. You basically throw glitter dust in a 20-foot cube anywhere within 60 feet. Any character, allies or enemies, need to roll to dodge. And if they fail to do so, they are outlined in a magical glow. And anybody who goes to attack somebody in that glow for the next minute rolls twice and takes the better result. So if there's a group of enemies in front of you, Fairy Fire is super powerful. Because you cast it, and then all of your allies suddenly get, like, insane ability to hit them. But it is a concentration spell. So once you cast it, you can't cast any other concentration spells, and if you get hit, you have to roll to keep it going.
Right. Let's see.
False Life makes it harder for you to, or rather, you gain a shield of HP for an hour, and you don't have to concentrate on it. It's 1d4 plus 4.
Can I cast that multiple times on like my allies and stuff?
Well, yeah, but it is a leveled spell, which means that you have to consume a spell slot for it. And I think you only get 2 of those at level 1.
Oh, right. So I would need to have 2 false lives to cast it twice.
Well, so that's not a thing anymore. These are spells that you know. And I don't believe Artificer is a prepared caster. So let me double check that. Spellcasting. Okay. So how to channel it through objects. Preparing and casting spells. When you do so, choose the number rounded down. Intelligence. Okay, so you are a prepared caster. That means every day, and it's specifically because you're an artificer, and the idea is that you build. Oh, that's my 2-hour alarm. Okay, that's okay. We can go over a little bit. Basically, because you cast spells by creating an item, the idea is that every day you think a bit about what items you want, right?
Right. Yeah.
But once you create an item, it's not like a one use. So you don't, like, you wouldn't have to say have false life 5 times. You have a number of spell slots that are consumed. So for right now, think of this as just like you planning out the blueprints of what spells you could possibly replicate with an item.
Right. It's learned spells, not actual casts.
Right.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, Fairy Fire sounds like a good support thing, so I'll take that. So Detect Magic, Fairy Fire, Gift of Alacrity. Is that just a general rule buff spell?
You touch a willing creature, and it adds 1d8 to its initiative.
What is an initiative roll specifically?
So whenever combat starts, whenever everybody in the general area is aware that they are about to beat ass, you roll initiative. It's 1d20 plus your dexterity modifier, and this adds a 1d8 on top of that. So if you want maybe you or like a specific party member to absolutely be the first motherfucker to go, or if somebody has
it's priority.
Right.
Okay.
Because
right.
you roll to see who's highest in the initiative order. And this is also very useful for people who have a negative dex, like, you know, your big chonky boy. If he needs to get into the thick of it, but he doesn't roll very well, you could use this to help him get there. It lasts for 8 hours, but it takes a minute to cast. So it's not something you would do in combat, though it wouldn't really have a use in combat. But
so hold on. So it lasts for 8 hours, but does it get used up?
No, for the duration, the target adds 1d8 to its initiative rolls. So
anytime it does an initiative roll. Okay.
Yeah. So if you're sure that you're gonna blitz through a dungeon, this is a great spell to have. For the purposes of Horde of the Dragon Queen, like specifically the start, the first combat is something that kind of just happens to you guys. It's not something you can prepare for, but the next few combats could be. So I will not say that this spell is useless, but its use is limited, especially because you don't have a lot of time to rest between combats, especially at the very beginning. So if this is a spell you choose to use, you would be sacrificing your one of your first level spell slots. But I do think it's a good spell.
Yeah. Okay. I think I've picked out what I want.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna go Detect Magic, Fairy Fire, Grease, Identify, and Magnify Gravity.
Grease, Identify, and Magnify Gravity, my favorite spell ever. My Artificer threw gravity grenades for this spell. And it was so
that's exactly what I was thinking of.
It's so cool. All right. Very well. You can't pick feats. You can write out bio on your own time, and your character is Dunzo.
Ooh, fantastic. All right. Yeah, I'll do the bio on my own time and get back to you at a later date.
We'll go ahead and move back
tomorrow, I guess, in DM.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Wow, I am much taller than you in this.
Well,
in this
it's because I'm sitting down. Like, what
no, I feel like you're actually doing like the Kiryu Coco thing, where actually you're just like your legs are doing something weird.
Yeah, I'm doing this. Or no,
you're just straight up. No, you're just standing straight up right now.
No,
you're actually just a midget.
No, I'm not that much smaller. I'm 1.5 inches smaller than you. You know what? Hold on.
Yeah, that's about 1 inch on my screen.
Oh my God, I can't believe this. Hold on. You know what? You're going back to being a toy on my desk. No, I'm gonna make you into marketable merchandise. Oh, now you're creeping in from the door.
Are you winning, son? Oh my God, no! You're gonna turn me into some fucking tabletop genie.
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna try and put you in the cup. Give me a second.
No, don't put me in the cup. Don't put me in the jar.
Oh no, Whim's in the jar. Okay. 1 second.
There we go.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed yourself. Do you have particular questions? I mean, I'll get to like the actual lore of the game at some point. I'll kind of talk about it, but like as far as the character creation process and all of that stuff.
No, I think we pretty much covered everything.
Sweet. Do you at least think that like the character that you had in mind at the start of this was more or less brought to life?
Oh, yeah, more or less, yeah.
Sick. All right, well, then for everybody else, I am pleased to announce the first character we have will be played by Whim, named to be determined. And now that you all have seen what he's capable of, please look forward to the next character who will be revealed. Not next week, because if I did once a week, then we'd be starting in like January. So I will get with the next player and then try and arrange a time. So it'll probably be a guerrilla D&D stream. And we will get that going. Yeah, so how did everybody else like it? As far as chat's concerned.
I think Drake enjoyed it very much. He is about 90% of the messages.
Yeah. Talking about various things. Spell time. His favorite. All right. Well, I really hope you look forward to the other player characters. Whim has. He basically already knew what he wanted, and so I'm very much. Lurk Bones enjoyed this. I'm glad. I'm really looking forward to some of the player characters who have not played D&D before. I tend to find that people who haven't played tend to have like a much wider imagination. Not to say that Whim is completely devoid of imagination, but no, I mean like because they don't know what D&D can and can't do, they tend to think beyond the idea of a class. You knew you wanted to be an artificer, like a warforged. Like
I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go in there and not know what a class is. Like,
well, I mean, I wouldn't mind even if you did. It's just another 10 minutes of talking, and we're Gucci. So, for the rest of you, which the other 4 of you know who you are, whenever the next one of you is ready, feel free to ping me on Discord in our super secret chat. Yeah, since they don't know the rules, they think quite a bit outside of them. Like, I have definitely created like a Sailor Moon magical girl in D&D 5th edition. It's super hilarious. It's the funniest way to play a warlock. Because you have all these abilities for your magical girl transformations and stuff like that, which is pretty atypical for how you would normally play D&D. So for things like that, I really hope that the other players can just think of whatever it is you want to play, as long as you understand that this is a long campaign. There are not too many places where it's easy to swap out characters. So I would like everybody to play a character that they feel like they can, do serious scenes with, do comedic scenes with, and really get invested with it. Because the story is the part that matters, and the mechanics just kind of facilitate everything. So, with all of that said, we are going to wrap up here. 10 minutes over is not bad. I think I'm pleased with this. So,
yeah, that's not bad at all.
All right. If you'd like to join me on this, my boy. All right.
Well, of course.
Since you type it out every time, now you get to say it.
All right. Actually, now I get to type it out with my mouth. It's great.
God, I don't know.
Well, think about that one for a second.
All right. せーの、おつかげろー。
おつかげろ
ー。はい。ありがとう。Now we gotta
どういたしまして。
get it. どういたしまして。Alright, let's get the heck out of here. Okay.